The North Carolina Governor's Working Group on Veterans, Service Members, and their Families has deep roots in the Tar Heel State going back more than a decade. Today, it offers a home for the dozens of groups in the state focused on improving veterans' lives and provides a canopy of relief for hundreds of thousands of North Carolina vets. The GWG is a living, breathing apparatus of service, providing a space for veteran advocates to find new ways to better serve those who have served our country. The first seed of this awesome idea was planted in 2006. Among the founders, Flo Stein, Dr. Harold Cudler, Dr. Wei-Li Fang, and Dr. Mike Lancaster. Over the next few years, the roots of what we now know as the GWG began to take hold, and by the early 2010s, that seed had grown into a sturdy sapling. Heavy-hitting state agencies, such as the Department of Health and Human Services and the Department of Commerce, had come on board. The Department of Veterans Affairs was fully engaged, and nonprofit groups from across the state were getting to know each other, meeting, and finding ways to work together to make veterans' lives better. In 2013, NC for Military Employment was created, NC for Me, an offshoot of the Department of Commerce. In 2014, the organization officially became a working group, before it had been a focus group, and a number of today's mainstay service providers got their start, among them Operation Home, a group committed to ending veteran homelessness, NC Strive, which helps address veterans' educational needs. Also, the first Women's Veterans Summit and Expo was held in 2014, and Veterans Experience Action Centers were established around the state. The following year, another group that's now indispensable was born out of the GWG, NC Serves, which today serves more than 13,000 veterans in 80 North Carolina counties. Also in 2015, the state doubled down on its commitment to vets, creating the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs, which promptly joined the GWG. A large part of the group's success can be traced to its unwavering commitment to key veteran issues, like curbing veteran suicide and ending veteran homelessness. Those critical missions were at the core of the seed planted in 2006 and remain central today. In 2012 and again in 2015, the group published statewide suicide reduction and prevention plans.
These are a lot of good guys, but if they're sitting at home,
Over the past 3 years, the GWG has become a showcase for veteran-oriented videos and digital media outreach.
I am sober.
Including an original series called Words to Live By. Battle-hardened veterans speaking directly to other vets, encouraging strength and resilience. Today, the GWG meets once a month to highlight pressing veteran issues, explore new solutions to veteran problems and challenges, and build relationships that turn ideas into action. Representatives from dozens of groups across the state make the monthly trek to Raleigh for the 2-hour meeting. Many more watch online. Each meeting is streamed live, offers closed captioning, and allows for viewer engagement. New ideas like the Governor's Challenge are introduced and given space to grow. Ideas like helpncvets.org are showcased and offered up to the group. Help NC Vets does just what it says, helps veterans and their families get connected to services in the state and connect with each other. Because of these and other efforts, veteran homelessness has turned a corner over the past decade. The veteran suicide rate in North Carolina is significantly lower than the national veteran suicide rate, and the Tar Heel State has boasted one of the lowest veteran suicide rates in the Southeast for the past several years. From its humble, passionate beginnings, the GWG has grown into a mighty tree of veteran support, and it's only getting stronger. Every year, the ground in which it's rooted gets richer and its branches grow longer. New fruits of service spring up, and more relief finds its way to North Carolina veterans and their families. The North Carolina Governor's Working Group can and should be a model for how to meet that mission around the country. even know how much of this we're going to use, but let's find out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm Mark Edmonds. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the Division of Workforce Solutions within North Carolina Department of Commerce.
Hi, I'm Martin Falls. I am the Deputy Secretary for the Department of Military and Veteran Affairs of North Carolina.
My name is Mark Belos. I'm the Director of the Winston-Salem Department of Veterans Affairs Regional Office.
Hi, I'm Deanne Seekins. I'm the Network Director for the Mid-Atlantic Network, DISN 6.
I'm Dr. Michelle Laws, and I am over community engagement and empowerment for the North Carolina Division of Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities, and Substance Abuse Services.
I'm a 28-year Army veteran. I come from an Army family. My wife, my brother, my father, my grandfather.
I spent over 30 years in the Army. I went from a private to a colonel.
My father served in the military. He served in the Army.
I have a husband who's a veteran. I have a father who was a World War II veteran who used our healthcare system. And I have a son who's enlisting in the military next week.
You're talking about my passion. That's what you're talking about, my passion. What do we do here? We advocate for veterans and for the military installations within North Carolina.
I am responsible for veterans care in North Carolina and Virginia. Provide service to about 500,000 unique veterans.
One of our overall objectives and missions is to increase the usage of our benefits. We are getting out around the state to educate veterans on what entitlements they may be eligible for.
Our division has invested millions of dollars to make sure that veterans have access to the appropriate mental health, developmental disabilities, and substance use disorder services that are needed. We want to make sure that no veteran is sleeping under a bridge. We want to make sure that not one more veteran dies by suicide in North Carolina.
So our part of the Veteran Support Network, this network is the job piece. And so we match veteran job seekers with employers. That's what we do. Any veteran that comes into the office gets priority of service. So they go to the front of the line for any job seeker services. They go to the front of the line for any funded training. They go to the front of the line for any employment services and to get them jobs.
We work hand in hand with Commerce, Department of Commerce, and Workforce Solutions in particular.
We can't do it on our own in the Department of Veterans Affairs. We have to collaborate and work with other people.
The Governor's Working Group is a great venue. You've got federal, state, local government, you've got civic organizations, you've got veteran service organizations, such as the Veterans Foreign War, the American Legion. All those are partners.
One thing that sets veterans aside, the whole veteran community, is we leave no man or woman behind. And I think everybody takes that seriously. And so when you look at groups like the Governor's Working Group, it allows us all to come together and really help veterans that are in need.
What I've really appreciated about our Governor's Work Group is we've been able to walk hand in hand and focus on issues, suicide prevention, suicide awareness. That is something that no one healthcare system, no one community partner can solve alone.
It's really exciting. Sometimes being with the organization I've been with for so long, you get used to doing things the same way. This is an opportunity to do things differently.
And one of the things I'd like to say as a result of the Governor's Working Group is North Carolina is now below the national average of veteran suicide rate. Second thing is North Carolina is below the national average of homeless veteran rate. So I can only attribute that to information, education, and collaboration.
Everyone has their niche, right? No one knows everything, and some of us specialize in very narrowly focused areas. And we believe that if we can pull all of these resources together and this expertise together through sharing of information through the North Carolina Governor's Working Group, sharing information, letting people know across the state what programs and services exist, then that's really key. That's critical.
Well, first of all, good afternoon, everyone. And as usual, I want to bring you greetings from the 75th Governor of the state of North Carolina, Roy Cooper.
Every day, there's a win somewhere, if you look at it. And that win keeps you going the next day and the day after and the day after. That yes, perseverance does work, and it makes it all worthwhile.
Are we ready?
Yes.
Welcome everyone to our 8th 2021 Governor's Working Group. We had hoped to be able to come to you live today, but with the rising cases of COVID, we've not been able to do that. We had to go back to virtual. We're still looking forward to those days. As always, register for email updates at ncgwg.org. If you are with us, you've already liked the Governor's Institute page, please share on your Facebook groups and with your friends so we can spread the word about those resources that we're discussing. Our agenda and minutes are always at ncgwg.org under minutes and group updates. Here on behalf of Secretary Gaskin and on behalf of Martin Falls is my Director of Department of Military and Veterans Affairs, Mr. Terry Westbrook. Welcome, Terry.
Thank you, Crystal. Thank you on behalf of Secretary Gaskin and the Governor of North Carolina. We appreciate you guys continuing this operation and continuing to do the things that make all of our agencies do better in support of veterans and the things we want to do. I want to thank all the people and organizations that work with the Governor's Working Group. We always think the more the merrier, and we appreciate all of them being involved, getting on as virtual guests, being live, being on Facebook Live, however they do it. And of course, finally, from Secretary Gaskin specifically, thank you, Jeff Smith and Crystal Miller and the Governor's Institute for continuing to drive this train and move us forward in the things we're trying to accomplish. Thank you. So what's happening now? First off, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that the vaccination rate for the residents in our state veterans home is over 90%. We have about 30 veterans across the state that are not vaccinated that are residents right now out of almost 400. So they're doing really well. And following right up with that, our staffs at our homes, which have lagged behind some based on whatever their considerations about the COVID vaccination are starting to catch up now. They're having clinics this week. And the big thing about this is there's lots of guidance out there from various organizations, from the president to the Veterans Administration, North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, Center for Medicare and Medicaid, that are all putting out guidance that has to do with mandatory vaccination of healthcare workers. So our healthcare workers are taking that to heart, and our nursing home management company is starting to run special clinics at their locations to help their employees get up to that number, and we're now up around 75%. So that's a good deal. Back, I'm sorry. Oh, wrong way. There you go. So next on the agenda, Veteran Experience Action Centers. As you people have heard us talk about before, these are these great opportunities where we can bring veterans into a facility, help them get a claim initiated, get the VA to actually go through the rating scenario, get compensation and pension exams scheduled to support their documentation. And at the end of the day, actually get awarded a disability compensation rating that turns into money that gets sent to them in their pocket. These things have been millions of dollars have been awarded based on conduct of these Veteran Experience Action Centers. What I'd like you to know is we have one scheduled here in just about a month in Wilmington, and we have several already in the planning stages for next year. They'll be across the state. Looks like they're going to go all the way from Charlotte to Elizabeth City. So we're very excited for the way that's going. We're also very excited for working with the VA regional office in Winston to make sure we have rating officials available for this. So Mark Belo, special shout out to you. Here in the last week, Secretary Gaskin has had an opportunity to meet with Secretary McDonough, who is the United States Veteran Administration's secretary. They were at the American Vets National Convention in Greensboro last week, and they met for a while Wednesday afternoon, discussed various issues that all of us be interested in. Additionally, I was able to meet with Secretary McDonough's Undersecretary Frua last Thursday. Crystal was also there. We got to discuss several initiatives that we're working on, from more telehealth, more automated and automation availability, some of the things the VA really wants to move forward with, and we're trying to partner with them and make sure we get through that. Finally, we have the North Carolina Veterans Council. A lot of you guys are aware of who they are. They're really a collaborative organization that works to get all of the veteran service organizations in the state involved in kind of a single legislative platform that complements what the department's doing and the Governor's Institute and the Governor's Working Group. So next slide. So coming up next, Veterans Day is around the corner, basically a couple of months away. So we're already starting to receive information about what's going on. As you can see, we already have our invitation to the Warsaw, the oldest Veterans Day celebration in the United States. They're now going to be doing like their 102nd or 103rd year with their parade. So we'll be supporting that. We'll also have things going on from here in Raleigh. There will be parades around the state at various places, Morehead City, out to the Piedmont area. There'll be at Forsyth County, we'll have a veterans event. So we have several things coming up. Construction projects at the state veterans homes. We have things going on all the way from the Salisbury State Veterans Home has gone through a major renovation over the last several years, and they're working on the punch list to award us our beneficial occupancy and be done with that project. We have the Kernersville State Veterans Home, as many of you have heard, is under construction. It's about 3 to 4 months from being completed. It's going to be a state-of-the-art facility for our veterans once we start utilizing it. We've done a lot of work on the cemeteries across the state, from new sod to new facilities to updated technological solutions within the building. So we have a lot of construction going on in support of our organization. As you can see next, the headquarters is already working on legislative issues. The short session comes up here in less than 6 months. So anything that we weren't able to work through during the long session, we're going to come right back with in the short session. So we're doing a lot of legwork to get ready for that to happen. And lastly, I'd just like you to know the Veterans Affairs Commission, which is a governor's appointed organization that oversees the spending associated with the state veteran homes and is a advisor to both the governor and the secretary of the department. They will have their next quarterly meeting sometime in this October. We'll let you guys know when that is. Next. So takeaways. Number one, as we all know, the Delta variant is having a significant impact on North Carolina and the nation. And that's causing us to move back to a more personal protective area, a lot more masking, a lot more trying to minimize gatherings, as you can tell just now. So we're working to minimize the effect of the Delta variant, doing everything we can with that. And we encourage everyone to continue to work towards helping us combat that out. Stay vigilant, do your 3 W's, and everyone get vaccinated. There are so many people and there's so much information out on the social media world. We just need to get very focused on this vaccination and how important it is to combating the Delta variant. So very important to keep moving. And finally, as you can see, we're projecting that we're going to be moving back towards more telework over the next several months. So, just trying to, once again, deal with the Delta variant, create some more combat opportunity there, and try to manage that process. So I think that's it for me, Crystal. I appreciate your time and look forward to the rest of this meeting.
Thank you so much, Terry. We appreciate that update. Just a quick plug here for the Red Cross Women Who Serve Forum. That is going to be held on September the 15th from 1 to 5 p.m. If you are a woman veteran, please consider joining us. You can register at that link that you see there. And these slides, of course, will be available on the North Carolina Governor's Working Group website by tomorrow. So you'll be able to use that link to register for this event. Up next, we have Mark Belos, the director of the Winston-Salem VA Regional Office. And we are so glad to have you today. Mark, welcome.
All right, thanks, Crystal. Good to be here and have a couple exciting updates for you all, especially those folks that are in the southeast corner of our state. The first one is we've established a agreement with the Wilmington VA Healthcare Center where we're doing what we're calling telebenefits. They have a operation set up there so that if you want to talk to somebody in the regional office all the way in Winston-Salem, you can schedule an appointment, go in, and they will guide you through a process where you'll be on video talking to one of our folks in Winston, and they'll be able to see you and help you with whatever question you may have with regards to your benefits, whether you're filing a new claim for benefits or you're trying to get a status of a claim. This is an opportunity to speak to us directly and face to face in a virtual environment. So we're really excited to get this operation up and running. And looking forward to all the folks, especially those that visit the Wilmington Healthcare Center, to take advantage of it, to get information on any VBA benefits. There's a telephone number that you can call on the screen, or you can talk to somebody at the front desk at the Wilmington Healthcare Center, and they will help you through the process. So. We're excited. This is the first time we've done this in the state, and depending upon how it goes, maybe we will look at expanding it out to other VA medical centers around the state. You know, as you all get feedback as to how that works, please give us feedback. Let us know. Let the folks know there in Wilmington, or let us know as you're talking to us, so we can continue to make this process better and give you the information that you need for your benefits. Next slide, please. The other thing, Terry Westbrook mentioned it earlier. We're going to be, we're excited to be doing the first VAC in like, a year and a half plus. Seems like almost 2 years ago that we did the last one, and we're going to be in Wilmington on the 23rd, 24th, and 25th of September. We're excited to partner with folks down there. We're going to be at the American Legion Post 10. That was the, I believe, the facility we were at last time we were down there. So we're excited to have you come in. I do want to say that all of our folks who are going to be traveling down to that event will have been vaccinated. VA has a guideline in effect that any folks that travel for VA business must be vaccinated. So all those folks will be vaccinated, and they will be wearing masks for your safety. So that's number one. So we're excited to start up this Veteran Experience Action Center in September, and I know with the Delta variant, things have really gone in the wrong direction, but we're like I said, we're taking all safeguards and in place, and we are excited to do this event in September. So you get more information there by going on our website, or you can even register in advance that you're going to be there at the Eventbrite site listed below. Next slide, please, Crystal. So just the takeaways, the telebenefits, the VAC, and I do want to tell you that we are open to the public in Winston-Salem. We have been for quite a while. We were, as things improved this past spring, we allowed folks who were vaccinated to not wear a mask. Currently, the heat map shows really every county in North Carolina in the red at this point. So we are back requiring all of our employees and on all visitors in the federal building in Winston-Salem are required to wear a mask to enter at this point. We continue to encourage you to, although we're open to the public, instead of just walking in, to use our Waitwhile scheduling system. You can schedule an appointment online. What we will do then is we will call you and have a conversation with you. We find that probably 75 to 80% of the folks we can help right over the phone, and you don't have to make the trip and find parking and walk all the way into the office. So if we talk to you and there's still a need for you to come in, then we schedule an appointment, and there's no waiting. So please take advantage of that Waitwhile link for scheduling an appointment, and I think you'll find it worthwhile. We've had a good success with that, and a high degree of veteran satisfaction for folks that have used that. So I think, Crystal, that's my last slide, and I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark. We always appreciate your updates, and we look forward to hopefully being able to have that VAC. We are all excited about that. Next, I have Mary Parker, Deputy Chief Medical Officer, acting at the VA Vision 6 Healthcare Network. Thank you and welcome, Mary.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm so pleased to be here. I bring welcomes and hellos from Ms. Stephanie Young, our acting network director. She is finishing up the last 2 days of our Healthcare Leadership National Training Program, of which she has served through which she has served as a coach for a number of years, and she's sad that she cannot be with you today. So I will do my best to fill in. Want to provide some updates. Thank you to our team who have covered some very important COVID-19 updates. So I'm going to layer yet again on the COVID front. As others have mentioned, unfortunately, our inpatient census volumes with COVID are continuing to increase. We have been fortunate that up until now, we have not had significant impacts on our elective surgeries and those types of things. However, we are reaching a point where we are beginning to make case-by-case decisions. Hopefully, we can get beyond the next couple of weeks and get through, though the predictive modeling suggests we are only, unfortunately, at the first part of this particular wave. Please, 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 I believe it was Mr. Westbrook who spoke so eloquently, wash your hands, stay away from people, not in a bad way, but in an important and socially distanced fashion. And please make sure that you are masked. Here's my prop. Wear your masks, and also make sure that you are vaccinated. We are working with each of our sites. There's new information, as everyone should be aware. Pfizer received full approval on Monday morning of this week for its vaccine for those who are ages 16 and older. We continue to provide Pfizer vaccine to those ages 12 and older through the Save Lives Act emergency use authorization activity. We are preparing and have actually had some sites go ahead and begin administering the mRNA vaccines to those individuals who meet classifications as immunocompromised as the quote unquote booster dose. Now, this is different from what's currently being kicked around a great deal in the media as it relates to that third dose for everyone who has received the first 2 doses of that mRNA vaccine. And just for those of you who are keeping up at home, the decision on what to do for those who have received a J&J vaccine is still, the jury's still out on that. We, as others have mentioned, are also in the process of working through the VA employee mandate. We are a service profession and department, and we must keep everyone safe. And we take our oath to provide care to our greatest heroes very seriously. So we had an all-staff meeting with Secretary McDonough and Deputy Secretary Remy yesterday, and they reiterated our commitment to that COVID-19 vaccine mandate for those who are unable due to health reasons or religious reasons not to, those who are not able to receive the vaccine. We are working to implement a mandatory testing strategy. That's kind of keeping us busy right now. We are seeing increased limits on visitation, which is really very tough, especially for our community living center veterans, for our domiciliary veterans, and we are working to get those lifted just as quickly as possible. We anticipate that coming weeks, if we can get beyond this surge, we will be able to make improvements and get back towards that stage 3 more open visitation approach that we really prefer. So back to iPads for a lot of our folks, but everyone's very understanding, and we're really grateful for that. Down at the bottom of this is a safety stand down. So back in June, we had a really important safety stand down, and it related to a significant and really terrible scenario that played out in Clarksburg, where an unsecured insulin product was administered by an unlicensed person to many veterans, and as eight veterans passed away as a result. And this is just such a terrible situation. And so Secretary McDonough and Dr. Stone, who was our acting undersecretary at the time, mandated, and we in VISN 6 committed to safety practices and really had an all hands on deck approach for how we can ensure a safe and protected environment for care across all of our sites of care. We pulled the very painful and difficult to read OIG report. It was mandatory reading, and everyone dug in and really thought about the ways that we can improve our system for others. Next slide, please. We have a few important dates coming up. Next week, we will have National Overdose Awareness Day. This is important because we still, unfortunately, have a ways to go in managing opioid use disorder and a variety of other scenarios that can be treated if we just know in time. September is Suicide Prevention Month, and we'll be highlighting through a series of media and comms approaches our Reach Out program. This is a reminder that, especially with everything that's happening, we need to make sure that we are reaching out to our friends and our colleagues who are veterans, everyone from whom we've been separated due to this extended COVID pandemic, and to make sure that we check in on ourselves, that we are feeling well and doing well and taking care of ourselves. September 11th is Patriot Day, and we anticipate a variety of 20th anniversary observances, mostly virtual due to the rising caseload of COVID. And that's certainly a somber day in our history of our country. Turning our attention, market assessments. We get lots of questions about our market assessments. This is a hot topic, and we are hopeful that and expect to receive market assessment information in the next 6 months. Our market assessment process is one that I've done a lot of learning about, as it was not intuitive to me when I joined VA. But this is something, and we anticipate that we will have additional specific information about our VISN 6 facilities in the early part of 2022. I believe there is still one listening session to hold, but that is in our Virginia market. Finally, we are excited, and I heard some great chatter prior to the start of this call reminding the MilVets Women's Veterans Symposium is on October 21st. And I'm so hopeful that many will be able to attend this wonderful event. Next slide. That may be it for me. So this is a very important reference slide. We do continue to get beneficiary travel questions. I'm so pleased that our teams have worked and resolved many of the beneficiary travel issues that we spoke about, not last meeting, but the prior meeting. And we are moving forward with additional plans to make that a more user-friendly system in the future. Last meeting, we spoke about the CPAP recall, and that is still an evolving situation. Please make sure that you and your loved ones and your constituents call the number listed to make certain that you have registered any devices that are Philips products, so that we can make sure that you are getting the most up-to-date information possible regarding that recall. And finally, we do have a summation page for vaccine information for all the vaccines that are available for COVID, as well as the mental health resources as a part of Reach Out Month. You've got Reaching Into Care and our crisis hotline that are referenced there for you. With that, I thank you all for your attention and look forward to speaking with you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Parker. And thank you for mentioning the Women Meal Vet Summit. That is coming up, as she said, on October the 21st. That will be from 10 to 12. We will have some more information for you and information on how to tune in for that program this year. Thank you again. It's been wonderful having you today. Next up, Dr. Laws. I'm not certain if she is with us. Jeff Smith, will you be presenting for her?
She's here.
Okay, welcome, Dr. Michelle Laws, Assistant Director for Consumer Support Services and Community Stakeholder Engagement at the Division of Mental Health. And I'm gonna leave it there. I'm so sorry, Dr. Laws, but thank you and welcome. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. The video, I'm getting a message saying you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it. So don't know what that's all about, but there it is. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to be here with you all. So this doesn't look like the updated version, I don't think. And I know I got that to you late, so I'll just go with this and reiterate what Dr. Parker and others mentioned. And we are all excited about this great news that Pfizer has received full approval. And so we are hoping that that will allay some of the concerns that people have had and are expressing in terms of their hesitancy to get vaccinated. One was a segment of the population was saying they wanted to wait until the vaccines got full FDA approval. And so we're seeing that beginning to happen, starting with the Pfizer vaccine. Next slide, please. And I also want to stress that we are continuing to trend in the wrong direction. And even though these numbers look a lot better than they did several months ago before the vaccine came online, we have a lot of work to do. And this is promising that 64% of the adult population in North Carolina received at least one dose, and 59% of the adult population in North Carolina are fully vaccinated. We still want to make sure that we get as close to as possible 100% of persons who are eligible. One, in large part because we're seeing what we know will happen when a large percentage or proportion of the population is not vaccinated. And so this whole Delta variant and the increase in cases related to that in terms of hospitalizations, as well as cases, as well as deaths, over 90% of those are among persons who are unvaccinated. So it is extremely important that we all send the message and that we lead by example, that we get vaccinated as leaders in this space, and encourage all of our veterans and military members, as well as their family members and the communities at large where they reside, to get vaccinated. Next slide. This looks a little bit, shows you a little bit of how it looks when we map it out in terms of persons who are fully vaccinated and persons who have at least one dose. The map on the green map is reflects those counties where we still need to do a lot of work, or show us the counties where we need to do a lot of work by using a heat map to show from the least to the greatest number of persons who have received at least one dose. And so the lighter the color is, the lower the percentage of persons who have received at least one dose. And then the same is presented or represented in the map, on the right, in that blue map, and that represents fully vaccinated. So even though we, as the old Virginia Slim ad says, we've come a long way, baby, we still have a lot of more work to do in reaching counties, and particularly that are in the far western and far eastern part of our state, and getting people vaccinated. Next slide, please. And it was referenced, Dr. Parker discussed what is referred to as the booster shot. And so she's absolutely correct. Right now, the guidance from the CDC, and we are in step with that, that additional dose, the booster shot, will go to those who meet several criteria, including mostly those who have moderate to severe systems that are immunocompromised. And so that includes people who have been receiving active cancer treatment for tumors or cancers of the blood, those who've received an organ transplant and are taking medicine to suppress the immune system, those who've received a stem cell transplant within the last 2 years or are taking medicine to suppress the immune system, those who have moderate to severe primary immunodeficiency, and also those who have advanced or untreated HIV infection, and then those who are under active treatment with high dosage corticosteroids and other drugs. I always twist that up in my mouth, so I hope those of you who may be in that category are aware that you can get vaccinated. And what's important, that booster shot, you're at the front of the line to get the booster shots. And it's important because we know that, again, the Delta variant is wreaking havoc on persons who are either unvaccinated or who have moderate to severe immunocompromised systems. And so we are hoping that the message gets out to everyone so that when it's your time to take your shot, that you get your spot to take your shot. And then obviously always people should talk to their healthcare providers about their own specific unique medical conditions and needs to see if they too should be counted among those that are getting the boosters when they are distributed in North Carolina, which will be in September. And so again, a lot of work to do, but I think on this call, all of us want to make sure our communities are safe and healthy, our families are safe and healthy, and those who are still protecting our country, all of our military, enlisted members of our military, that they're safe and healthy as they are doing that heavy lifting, and our veterans who work so hard to protect us. Next slide, please. So we have resources on our DHHS website where you can go, just put in your zip code and you can find a location to get vaccinated without any questions. So, if you are enlisted in the military, and if you're a veteran with benefits where you can access them through that system, or if you are a veteran like those that we see and serve a lot in our system who have been discharged other than honorable discharge, or who are not getting full benefits, please, please, please tell people to go to this website, our website, and put in their zip code to find out where they can get vaccinated for free. Next slide. I just want to say, and I'm not going to say too much about this, COVID isn't the only thing that our division has been really, really, focused on and in a lot of ways overwhelmed with. But North Carolina shifted from a fee-for-service system, and we are now in what is our Medicaid managed care system, starting with our standard plans, which are prepaid health plans. I've listed them here for you. And what's important is, again, there are veterans that we serve that do not receive veteran benefits that we serve through our system. And that may be one of your family members, that may be, an old comrade who, aren't receiving the same benefits that you're receiving. Please, please, please make sure if they're Medicaid eligible in any way, or if they're family members, their spouses or ex-spouses or what have you, make sure that they are connected. No one should be in need of mental health and substance use services and NIDD, but in particularly mental health and substance use services, as I think of our veteran population and not getting the treatment in one of our public systems, either through our veteran and military affairs or through our public systems that are in place to serve those who are uninsured and those who are Medicaid eligible. Next slide. And the next slide addresses the tailored plans, which were awarded July 26th, and that's also a part of our Medicaid managed care program in North Carolina that serves some of our most complex needs individuals. Next slide. Finally, this is suicide. We're going into suicide prevention month and awareness week. Next week, I think it is the first week. And just want to underscore that we still have a lot of work to do to address veteran suicide. On average, according to national statistics, on average, 18 veterans are dying each day by suicide. And so want to make sure that we're spreading the word about resources that are available, including the Suicide Prevention Lifeline and the Veterans Crisis Line. Next slide. And then other resources that I've always highlighted during this presentation, or we still have those up. Hope for NC, helpline 855-587-3463, and NC for Vets, which is 844-624-8387. Other numbers are listed here, including the Alcohol and Drug Council and our problem gambling hotline. Next slide. Please use the resources that we have. We are proud of the work that we've done, in large part from NC Serves, connecting with our NC Cares network to be able to have people access services in their areas. Next slide. And then our website is chock full of resources that people can use and get, including information about housing opportunities and prevention of evictions, as well as other resources, utility assistance and the like. Thank you all so much. Always an honor to be a part of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Laws. And folks, that is information you can count on. We feel like our state's doing really well in keeping us informed. Please get vaccinated. Don't wait. Let your children who are old enough get vaccinated, because the schools are already quarantining kids by the dozens. So thank you so much, Dr. Laws. And you got tongue-tied. I get tongue-tied with the mental health, developmental disabilities, and substance abuse services when I'm interviewing or when I'm introducing you and Jeff Smith. So thank you for being with us today. Next up, we have Victor Glover. I think we also have Mark Edmonds with us today on behalf of NC Works and Veteran Services. Welcome.
Well, thank you and good afternoon, everyone. Our career centers are North Carolina helps veterans, transitioning service members, and eligible military spouse find new civilian jobs and training opportunities through NC Works Veteran Services, which is a program of the Division of Workforce Solutions within the North Carolina Department of Commerce. Next slide, please. Our career center staff have transitioned back to our offices across the state. We're still encouraging people to use the virtual and remote services as much as possible, calling or emailing the NC Works Career Center staff rather than coming in, even if their local center is open to the public. What they're doing is if you call in, they will schedule an appointment for you to come by the center. And of course, we will entertain and provide services to anyone that has an appointment. Next slide, please. Our centers are maintaining public health and safety through protective personal equipment and social distancing guidelines in all of our centers. Next slide. Through our virtual services, employers can still meet with our business services representatives. They can access resources to support hiring and training of staff, advertise employment opportunities on ncworks.gov, locate labor market information. I was in Greensboro last week, and Greensboro had a hiring event. They had it in the parking lot. A number of our career centers are having and working with employers and having job fairs. So even during these tough times, many employers are still hiring. You can see job openings on www.ncworks.gov or ask the NC Works staff for guidance. Also through virtual services, individuals can connect with a team member. They can get help with resumes, applications, and working online. They can find out about local hiring opportunities and getting help again with ncworks.gov to search for jobs. Next slide, please. And we have a number of resources and partners in the community that we've been working with that we found that reach out to veterans as well. North Carolina for Me, NC for Me, North Carolina Department of Military and Veterans Affairs, North Carolina Department of Commerce, which is me. The NC Works Veterans Portal is very efficient and very effective for helping veterans with crosswalking their experiences, and Military One Source. On our ncworks.gov, we have a list of hiring events. So you can go visit our site, www.ncworks.gov, and find hiring events that are taking place in your communities. And as usual, you can always go back and pick up a copy of these slides in the website, and my contact information is the very last slide. So if you need any further assistance or guidance or direction, don't hesitate to reach out to me. My name is Victor Glover, State Director for Veterans Employment Services, Department of Commerce. Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you so much, Victor. Wonderful seeing you today. Thank you for that excellent information. I know there are a lot of people hiring in North Carolina and need good help. So thank you for help making that happen.
Sure.
Next up, I have Jeff Smith, Military and Veterans Program Liaison, Division of Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities, and Substance Abuse Services with the Department of Health and Human Services. I wrote it down this time, Jeff, so I wouldn't get tongue-tied. Welcome, and thanks for being with us today.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Crystal, thank you so much. Nice work on the MHDD and SAS introduction. Just before I get started with all of my updates, I wanted to make sure that everyone had seen that there are veterans that are maybe eligible for the Veterans Educational Assistance Program, VAP. And if you were on active service between January 1st, 1977 and June 30th, 1985, and completed your first period of service and you contributed to this, you may be eligible. Please contact VA or your local veteran service officer for more information if you think you're eligible. And they'll help you fill out VA Form 22-5281. All right, so thank you very much. Next slide, please. We've all been talking about this. August is Immunization Awareness Month. And I heard something good yesterday, and it said, that which does not kill you only mutates and comes back for another chance. That's what this vaccine is doing. If it misses you on the first pass, it goes out and gets a little meaner and comes back. They've already identified what is now the Lambda variant, and there's probably other ones on its heels. So please, let's display some caring for your friends and neighbors and help us beat this vaccine or this COVID pandemic by getting vaccinated. All right, next slide, please. We continue to work on Operation Home. I've been having some conversations with some of the folks and our key partners here. We're excited that the Coalition to End Homelessness has a new executive director, so we'll be sitting down with him next week to discuss how we're going to continue with Operation Home and make it part of the solution. As you see, there's a lot of partners that we have to work with in this, and we just need to every once in a while sit down and revisit how we're getting this done. Next slide, please, ma'am. I want to remind everyone about our Ask the Question campaign. That as we talk about services for former servicemen and women, that the more appropriate question is, have you or someone you love ever served in the armed services? We know that takes care of folks who necessarily didn't have good paper. It also covers caregivers and other folks who may not believe that they are a veteran, but are in fact could be entitled to some veterans related programming and assistance on account of their service. And one of the key tools that we have developed to help with this campaign and education is on our next slide, if you could, Crystal.
I was in the first Fallujah, so I lost a lot of friends.
The explosion had picked up the Humvee and flipped it over, ejecting the gunner out of the top.
I was in international waters, and the vessel that I was in began to take on enemy fire.
Everyone has a story to tell. For our service members, veterans, and military families, those stories have lasting effects.
86% of us who served in Iraq or Afghanistan know somebody who was seriously injured or killed.
86% of us
know someone who was seriously injured or killed.
65% of us saw Americans die or get seriously hurt.
48% of us feel responsible for the death of an enemy.
Asking your clients and patients whether they or loved ones served in the military is a vital first step in providing whole person care.
There are a lot of veterans that actually don't know.
I was in the first Battle of Fallujah, so I lost a lot of friends.
Not really.
Apologies. We're having some difficulties here. Let me go back and try this once more.
Crystal, let's just bypass it.
So I lost a lot of friends.
The explosion had picked up the Humvee and flipped it over, ejecting the gunner out of the top.
I was in international waters, and the vessel that I was in began to take on enemy fire.
Everyone has a story to tell. For our service members, veterans, and military families, those stories have lasting effects.
86% of us who served in Iraq or Afghanistan know somebody who was seriously injured or killed.
86% of us
know someone who was seriously injured or killed.
65% of us saw Americans die or get seriously hurt.
48% of us feel responsible for the death of an enemy.
Asking your clients and patients whether they or loved ones served in the military is a vital first step in providing whole person care.
There are a lot of veterans that actually don't know what they're entitled to, and so it's important for these providers to ask.
I got the treatment I needed because I told them I was a veteran. I get the services I need because I'm a veteran.
Because I'm a veteran.
Here are key questions service providers should ask of clients and patients.
Have you or a loved one ever served in the military?
Did you experience any trauma during your service?
Are these issues affecting other aspects of your life?
Providers are asking those questions to ensure veterans get the benefits they've earned. Between the Department of Veterans Affairs, the state, and more than 4,000 veteran and family nonprofits, North Carolina offers vets an array of unique and targeted programs that are changing lives every day. But veterans have to know about them to use them, and providers are often the first link.
As a service provider, I helped a lot of veterans get the services they deserve.
Providers should always ask the question, have you or a loved one ever served in the armed services?
Thank you so much, Crystal. Nice work. Glad we could get that to show in its entirety this month. So that is available on the Governor's Working Group YouTube channel, and please share it, use it throughout your civilian partners and within your other departments and organizations. Right. One of the next projects that we've been working on for the summer is the Welcome Home video series, and I just wanted to thank all of our partners here on the screen who have participated to the filming of these segments that are going to be a revolutionary and groundbreaking tool for connecting North Carolina veterans with the resources that they need to make a successful transition. And we hope to have the first one of those done maybe next week so that we can start getting them reviewed and approved and getting them all plugged in together. So keep an eye out for more of that. We hope to be able to show you one in September. Next slide, please, ma'am. As Dr. Laws alluded to, September is National Suicide Prevention Month, and Labor Day week is National Suicide Prevention Week. Please take a moment to think about your friends and neighbors, former service buddies who served in Afghanistan. And go to the next slide, ma'am. Not only folks who've served in Afghanistan, but also Vietnam veterans are having some painful memories, watching what's going on in Afghanistan. It's really stirred up a lot of emotions. So please make that you have the connections to the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. As you know, 1-800-273-TALK. It's 8255. And make sure that we don't lose anybody else. That's what we try to do every day. Next slide, ma'am. You'll see that while Zoom fatigue is real, we are holding relatively steady at 5,500 or so viewers every month, especially since we're in the summer months. I consider that pretty good, and try and make sure that we put value in every meeting so that we can keep folks paying attention and getting connected with these fantastic services, things like VAX and the Women Veterans Summit. And next slide, please. If you have any other questions, information, if there's something I can assist with, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Easiest email in state government, jeff.smith@dhhs.nc.gov. Thank you so very much, everyone, and have a delightful weekend too.
Thank you so much, Jeff. We appreciate that. Next up is the NC Serves Update with Mr. Dave Roddenberry with the Governor's Institute. Welcome, Dave.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining today. We're talking all things NC Serves, so we will go to the next slide, please. There we go. So before I joined the Army, I grew up in a military family, and around a lot of those military type people. But about a year ago, we lost a really close family friend and somebody that I grew up with and really respected to suicide. He had served with my father for many, many years. You know, we called him Uncle Bill. And just a couple of months ago in June, we lost another. You know, I knew both of these men to be phenomenal human beings. They were dedicated to their families, dedicated to service to their nation. So of course, you know, we're really taken aback when we learned that they had chosen to end their own lives. And, you know, I think that we're all pretty acutely aware of the pervasiveness of suicide among those who have served. But like anything, it takes on much more meaning when it becomes personal. You know, there are a few big buckets of prevention approaches that like access to care, reduction of lethal means, but I'd like to focus a little bit on the upstream determinants, the social determinants as factors that function as kind of a gateway to suicidal ideation. This quote down here is from the Health Affairs blog, came out in July of 2019. And I want to highlight one of the key points of the article, which says, we need coordinated cross-sector efforts to leverage the existing resources and strengths of national, state, and community-based agencies to provide the right services at the right time. Next slide, please. So that's to say that suicide doesn't occur in a vacuum, right? There's a million health and lifestyle, social, and other factors that precede the act. So that's why we place so much importance on the role of interventions like the VA, like VSOs, DVOPs and leavers that see veterans and military families day in and day out, and of community-based organizations as facilitated by NC Serves and programs like us to address those upstream issues by providing that really easy and efficient access to care. You know, we're all pretty familiar at this point with the NC Serves need data, and I've got the top 10 right there. And you can look at each of those service buckets and imagine how a failure in one of them could lead someone on a road that ends in the decision to attempt suicide. This is why the state of North Carolina and organizations all around the community encourage the use of the network. It's like my buddy Jeff Smith says all the time, digging one hole is one too many. And that's especially when we could have prevented the situation and circumstances altogether. So, again, I say it every month, but please, if you're not connected with NC Serves, or someone who should be connected with NC Serves, please reach out. All of our contact information is right at the end of this presentation. And it's vitally important that we as a community find a way like this to band together and support those veterans. Next slide, please. Some updates from the Care Coordination Center's Veteran Bridge Home. The VBH Sandhills team were on hand at the Scotland County Veterans Stand Down recently to provide services to the more than 100 vets who attended that event. That's Jessica Salinas there in the picture, doing great things for people. And Al Lampkins on the right, who is the NC Serves Fayetteville Area Director. He was at the Korean War paver dedication ceremony, excuse me, at the Airborne Special Ops Museum. And he had the honor of escorting former POWs, Sergeant Major Jacob Roth and First Sergeant Bud Wilson around the POW exhibit. Next slide, please. Over the last month, the VSC, the Vet Services Carolinas NC Serve staff and leadership has really guided a large-scale improvement project alongside the Unitas network engineers to improve the Unitas Tableau dashboard. While this work is ongoing, will always be ongoing, we hope that this is a positive step forward in our collective efforts to analyze this data faster and smarter. Finally, one update for both Blake Bourne and Brandon Wilson of VBH and VSC were on hand to share some of the history and lessons learned in establishing the NC Serves network with some of the other networks nationally as part of the America Serves Community of Practice yesterday. I got a chance to actually watch part of that. It was absolutely wonderful to see them sharing some of that hard-won knowledge about establishing the networks, funding strategies, expanding reach, and a couple of things that they both really stressed were the importance of integrating with state activities, VSOs, DVOPs, state nursing homes, hospitals, relationships with the VA medical centers, and this is what makes a successful network. Next slide, please. And that's it for me. Like I said, there's a contact information. Reach out to me, reach out to any of those numbers. As always, if you want to talk, we want to talk. And take care of each other and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dave. Good seeing you. All right, next up, Jeff Smith actually presented this opportunity to me because today is National Dog Day. And if you all know me, you know how much I love dogs. These are all of my rescue dogs I've had and that have passed on to the Rainbow Bridge, but all rescued. Here are the 4 in the middle that I have now. And National Dog Day celebrates all dogs, mixed breeds, and pure. So we know how helpful dogs are to our law enforcement, to our military. We know how important dogs are to those with post-traumatic stress or mental health disorders. Dogs really make a difference. And I don't mean to just focus on dogs because all animals can make a difference. And I'm so excited we have Robert Elliott here today to talk about agriculture. We just want to recognize that there are a lot of dogs that need to be rescued, and they put their lives on the line. They will forever be dedicated to you. And if you don't feel like adopting full time, you can foster. I have about, these are all fosters and more fosters. These are probably about half that I have fostered in the past 3 years. So please remember that these animals are very important to the well-being of us humans, and celebrate National Dog Day. Give your dog a kiss for me. Make sure you spay and neuter animals all animals, not just our dogs. So we do not have so much euthanasia going on in our country. Appreciate you, Jeff, for letting me have that opportunity. Next up, again, I said Robert Elliott, this is Executive Director, Veterans Farms of North Carolina. I always enjoy your presentations, Robert, and we know that agriculture is so important to the well-being of our veterans that have entered into that occupation. So thank you for being here with us today.
Crystal, thank you. Jeff, thank you. Everybody within the Governor's Working Group, thank you all for attending and listening to us provide some updates. I think it's been about 2 years since we did the initial Governor's Working Group and kind of debuted what we're doing here. But joining me again this year is Dr. Crystal Kyle from NIFA. And she's going to go through some of the research that she did. She's one of the only that I know of people in the world that have done research on agricultural programs and how agriculture fits with the veteran community. So next slide, please. About me, I'm a farmer veteran myself. I am the founder and executive director of the Veterans Farm of North Carolina, and we'll talk more about that in a second. I am the program builder and former program coordinator of the Soldier to Agriculture program under the NC State University Agricultural Institute, GoPAC. I am also the owner of Fidelis Farms, Honor Hemp Company, and Broad River Hemp Company, all companies that are there for assisting other folks in getting into hemp production and moving some of their products that they have that are hemp or otherwise. Dr. Kyle, are you on?
I'm here.
Okay, I'm gonna let her talk.
Introduce me. So I'm Crystal. I'm also a farmer veteran. I have a small farm. Some of the previous work I did was as the North Carolina Agri-Ability Director. The job was mostly helping farmers that have disabilities continue farming productively and safely. A lot of those included veterans. I was also the North Carolina Agri-Medicine Institute coordinator, and in that role, I did military veteran research for mental and physical health. My mental health and suicide prevention certification I'm still active on that. And I'm currently the USDA NIFA biological science specialist, and I handle all of the, most of the military, active duty, and veteran programs such as Yellow Ribbon, Military Reach, family advocacy, and then ag vets and beginner farmer and ranchers and small business. I'm also the associate editor of the Journal of Veteran Studies. So this includes all studies that are involved with military veterans and their families. So I just need to put this out there because I do work for the government. I work for USDA, National NIFA, National Institute of Food and Ag. That this is, I'm here to represent agriculture and my research and not necessarily that of NIFA. Next slide, please.
So for those in this space, it may be hard to believe, but I at one time did not have a beard. That's me on the left. I grew up on a 1,000-acre commodity farm in Franklin County, just outside of Wake County. We did a lot of your commercial crops such as tobacco and soybeans. We also did quite a lot of beef cattle as well. But growing up, I absolutely despised farming because I got to see how hard it was for my family to hold on to it. Like many others, I wanted something else. So as soon as I was able to, I joined the Marine Corps because, well, obviously Marine Corps is the best. And I thought it was going to be a whole lot easier than farming, and in a lot of ways it was. But served active from 97 to 02, bounced around between 3 duty stations, CONUS and overseas on C-130 crews. kind of accompanied a lot of the birds wherever they were going, good, bad, or otherwise. A medical issue from a surgery got me out in 2002, and I served with the same unit as a DoD contractor until 2011. And during that time, there was about 3,000 of us that were laid off at the same time in North Carolina. So as you can imagine, all of the job opportunities that existed on military installations in North Carolina kind of disappeared really quick. I did not have much of a opportunity to plug in elsewhere, and sold my house down at the coast and headed home to the farm to look for more opportunities within NC State and going to college and that sort of thing. But during this time, I experienced a lot of the transitional issues within the first year that most of your veterans tend to experience, because for me, that was my transition out, and I'd been spending 15 years with all the Marines I was with. Next slide, please. What you see here is me arriving at the farm, and ultimately the chicken that saved my life I'll talk about in the next slide, please. I did not want to farm, and I was able to move into my grandmother's old house that was vacant back on the farm, and nothing seemed to work whatsoever for me at all. Working jobs that I could find were very part-time, working in auto shops here and there. I had gone to NC State and I failed out of engineering school, only to return back later and make it through. But everything that I was going through at the time, with zero network whatsoever, ultimately led me to start going down the rabbit hole of thinking that maybe I don't deserve to be here anymore, and maybe there's nothing for me here anymore. And to be honest with you, that chicken I showed you in the previous slide kept jumping in my lap, and it was just one of the random chickens around the farm. And this chicken was just kind of like staring at me the entire time, every time she'd jump in my lap, and always kind of brought me joy. But it was almost like that chicken was telling me, dude, why don't you farm? Why aren't you farming? Because you know what to do. So I reluctantly started farming and really tried to apply every bit of business sense that I could learn into that operation, and focus on how to actually build a small farming operation on my own with successful business practices. And over the course of about 6 years, I was able to build a niche pork business that delivered to the Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill area, and make it very successful. And somebody along the way wanted to hear me talk about it and enjoyed what I had to say. And it was this group of folks that wanted to know about how do we get veterans into farming, apparently, because that was becoming a trendy thing. I didn't even know it. But that talk that I gave about what it was like and how a chicken saved my life, and becoming a farmer and how that saved my life, actually brought a lot of press to my door. And what wound up happening was those stories spread, and vets started calling me saying, dude, how do I do what you're doing? And for me, it was one of those things where it was like, dude, I don't know, just come on out here and I'll show you what I'm doing. If you want to learn, I'll show you everything I'm doing. And I realized pretty quickly that the average knowledge, education base that a farm kid gets growing up is precisely what veterans need. In the military, we're taught, here's the basics of the job, here's the tools to do it, get out there and do it, and then you're kind of led along by the senior enlisted. So next slide, please. Crystal, I'll let you take it along.
So my story is pretty similar. I was in the Army for 10 years, just over 10 years. I was in a CH-47 unit, and we deployed to Afghanistan and Iraq. After I got out, I tried to go to school. I didn't fail out, but I failed a lot of classes and kind of bounced around to what degree I wanted to settle in. I found environmental science and started working in the soil science labs, and I loved it because I was isolated and I didn't have to deal with people. but that wasn't helping me mentally. So I started to work on row cropping, and then eventually animal production, and became the assistant manager of the farm. And it just completely changed how I saw life and how I connected with people. And it did a lot of good for me. And so I started to hear other stories of other veterans that were kind of going through the same thing. As Crystal mentioned, with the dogs and dog therapy, I have 6 dogs myself that I've rescued. And I could just feel myself being able to connect not only with the animals, but then be able to use that to connect with other veterans and then civilians. So I, after my master's, I kind of floated around of what I wanted to do, and had a couple job offers. They didn't seem like something I wanted to do. And then I went to Virginia Tech. Long story short, I enrolled there and did my research in veterans that farm, to get kind of a better understanding of, we all know that it helps, but why? And to show the numbers and to show it in research, so that us as veterans can then come back later and use that as actual research for something that we're all experiencing. Next slide, please. So as Robert talked about, I felt extremely isolated and angry when I got out of the military. I couldn't connect with my children. I had a lot of challenges that happened overseas, as many of us do. And then my survival guilt was pretty high. I watched and seen a lot of my veterans pass away, some from war, some from, different things after, and then some from suicide. So I began to interact with other people, as I said, and then with civilians. And I had that worthless feeling, and it changed to a passion to complete my PhD. And that kind of got me through, because I was focused on helping veterans in a different way. And that was through research, so that we could then use this research. Next slide. Thank you. So where I focus in on is agriculture therapy, and we know that there's many different ones. And I kind of dip in all of them, but I focus more in farming itself. So next slide, please. And as I'm going through these, you can definitely read them. So my study was more of a multidiscipline study. It's human development, psychology, sociology, and then agriculture science. So these are just some of the things that I picked up within my research. So I definitely argue, and there's other researchers that argue, that cultural organization and occupation identity are critical to military veterans who have spent many years within a developed identity tied to each. So this is basically saying that, we already have an identity and we're very strong within that identity, and it's hard to change. We have critical connections to not only to our peers, but to our symbols, such as, the uniform, military camaraderie, your unit insignia, Marine Corps versus Army. We have our little jokes between, as Robert mentioned, the Army is the best. So, we have to constantly bring that out. We're mission oriented. We have great significant skills that can contribute to society. So thinking about all these and thinking about how they parallel agriculture is kind of where my study went, and why it's important to have cultural ties that are parallel between the military and what we do after, and how that looks in an agriculture setting. Next slide, please. So in all of this, and I know it's been mentioned, but resilience is the key. So without it, we start to have PTSD, depression, anxiety, behavior disorders, and of course, suicide. So the higher our resistance is, and the higher we're able to balance what our emotions and and I'll show that slide in a minute, but the higher our self-esteem will be, and we'll have better resources, self-efficiency, and locus of control. And of course, low resilience leads to the opposite. Next slide, please. So I looked at agriculture programs because they're important on what they're teaching to veterans and not just the quality of the education, but also the program itself. So a lot of veterans didn't want to be in a clinical setting. A lot of them didn't want to sit through treatment. It's very important to sit through treatment. And so I'm not advocating for that not to happen. I'm just saying that this was a different avenue to either parallel their clinical treatment or try something different. So we wanted to show why educational programs sometimes works. And so military gave me a purpose. It wasn't about me, it was the bigger mission. Civilians don't understand what we did and what we went through in the military. Civilian jobs are about money. Military was about a mission, purpose, honor, and respect. So these are some of the things that we got from the pre-interviews that we did. Next slide, please. And so I followed a Purdue kind of thought process, and he's a psychologist, but he basically says if you don't have all these capitals in balance, then you as a human are not balanced. And so you could see the 7 capitals, and then, you know, just being a mentally well person. And my argument was that for military veterans, whether we have these perfectly in balance or not, what's often missing quite significantly is the culture capital. We as veterans don't know how to be civilians. We don't know how to act like civilians and talk like civilians. So that's often the gap that's missing in our mental health. Next slide, please. And so this is what do you want to call it? The graphic I came up with. So adult educational programs are providing critical social mobility and identity, doing this through symbols. So through what's called habits, cultural capital is then formed, and a new field is then created. And so field is the way that we act in one situation versus another. And so you could go through these bottom, and I won't take up the time to, but you go through these different stages and you're developing symbols. And as you're doing that, you're creating more resilience, you're creating more capital, and you're improving your status within society, which is increasing your resilience and easing your PTSD and moral injury, which helps you acclimate to your civilian communities. And this was happening within the agriculture community. As people are becoming more self-efficient through agriculture, as they're being able to grow things, watch things grow, and then turn around and make a profit, and they feel better about themselves, they have more locus control over their life, and then they're able to begin to sell these products, which is helping them talk to civilians, talk to other veterans, and helping them be part of a community. So this was definitely improving their mental health. Next slide, please. So these are some of the quotes that we received after the study. And the study was about 8 months long with a agriculture program. So just for veterans. So it's talking, the first one's talking about symbols and the American flag and thinking of service and how we're doing something for this country that others are not doing. If you think about how few people join the military and then how few people are farming, it definitely connects with me. And then this program helped me to find my purpose and redefine it. I think because of this program, I have more confidence. And then I think for me, this program has helped me change from that of a military personnel to that of a farmer. My mission changed from the mission of protecting my position of danger to the mission of service through growing food and harvesting food for others. Is there a better feeling? And so just it's the same mission, it's the same task, it's the same feeling, slightly different and in a slightly different setting. They're still protecting the United States through food. They're still growing food for their peers, and they're still within a setting that has very patriotic roots. So next slide, please. So this is one of my favorite interviews that I did. It's, of course, we have to change their names when we do research. So his name is George, but while that thing took, I wish I had a picture, but I guess I didn't include it, but it was a 9mm that had a shot through it. But wow, that thing took a bullet for me. So a bullet raced across my back and it was so close. It was probably less than inches from my spine. There's this tidal wave of emotion that sometimes is uncontrollable. And sometimes I have a good handle on it and other times I'll start bawling. And I don't know why, but the point is that that's just who I am. That's a part of me. And so he was extremely emotional. He was extremely connected to this object, to his 9mm. And then after the program and after starting our agriculture, I re-interviewed him and he said, here we are on this adventure, and here we, meaning him and his wife, on this odyssey that we're starting on our own. We're getting educated and we are farmers. I mean, I love it. And to live this next chapter of my life here the way I want to live it, that has been a blessing. Farming is like a present. So next slide, please. Here's one more. I had a lot of mental problems when I left the military. I didn't want to interact with others or be in crowds. We hear this all the time, right? Normal desk jobs will not work for me. I needed something that would allow me to be in charge and work outside. And then after, this picture is me clearing out my yard and preparing for a garden next year. I'm holding a giant spider, which I would not usually do but I'm doing it now. Being in the outside and in the dirt is therapeutic, and being a farmer makes me feel good. So definitely, you can see a lot of parallels and a lot of things that we've heard people say and we've watched people do. So next slide, please. So basically it came down to, there was an improvement of mental health. There was changes in mood. Farming makes me feel good, sorry. There was connections. I noticed the civilians around this program are starting to see that veterans perform well and that we fit well for the needs of farming. I'm not just a veteran with PTSD anymore. New purpose. This program helped everyone recognize that we serve our country. Now we're helping the people where we live locally with food products that are made because everyone's got to eat. And I think with that, that is the kind of service that is a recognized service. So he has a lot of self-confidence now. And this is the one that was extremely suicidal. He has a lot of self-confidence, and he has a mission, a new mission. And so without that mission, he was just kind of floating. He was just kind of there, living. And he also was extremely disabled. And so he had, his hand was shot up, missing quite a few fingers. And then one of his legs was amputated, and he was shot, I think 3 more times other places. So he just didn't have a purpose, and he didn't know where to go and what to do. And so the bottom line is agriculture is a bigger purpose than me. It's a service to our nation, like the military, allowing symbolic connection, social mobility, resilience, and improved mental health through human development. So as we're going through this process, we're not being told, what's wrong with us, or thinking that we're sitting in a chair, not being listened to. You're just out there and you're working on something, and you're working hard. You're getting dirty, you're getting sweaty. And at the same time, when you're in the programs, you might, start to talk to another veteran, and then you realize, hey, that guy's got, or that girl's got a lot in common with me. And you start to see yourself in other people, and that you're not alone. As we do when we're in the military, we're not alone, and we don't feel as isolated. So next slide, please. So educational programs for military veterans will need to create a veteran-specific ag ed community where veterans will participate. So we over and over again got information that veterans do not want to initially do programs with other parts of the community. They would like to stay within that with other veterans. And so they don't want to talk about their problems or, issues with people that are not veterans. So it is very critical that, at least in the beginning, that agriculture programs for veterans are for veterans, just veterans. Incorporate familiar military symbols, behaviors, and language. Utilize symbolic military familiar educational practices. So learn the same kinds of ways as you did within the military, and create a purpose and mission, and use military veteran educators in engagement with civilians. So it was very, very critical. They said that whoever's teaching the program is a veteran themselves, at least initially. And then you bring in civilians maybe as guest speakers as they warm up. But it was very critical for them that the person who was doing the education was also a veteran, and that they are trained in some aspect of mental health, so that if there's a situation that arises, the educator or the program knows how to deal with that. And so for a final little quote, I don't think I would have participated if it wasn't for a veteran focus, because I would not have shown who I really am and been vulnerable in front of civilians. But the fact that there are veterans here and we are all working towards something very similar makes participation a lot easier. So next slide, please. Robert.
I always like for Crystal to jump in and discuss the research around this, because everything that she found in Virginia Tech is exactly what I found delivering programs at Fort Bragg and throughout North Carolina. But there's just more to it than the simplicity of getting a veteran involved in an agricultural operation. Agriculture has got a whole lot of big problems today that warrants me at least bringing to everyone else's attention before we talk about the programs that I've built and exist. The snapshot of ag today is you have got a retirement age that is doing all of the farming, and their kids do not want to come back. Just like what I told you in my story, I didn't want to come back either, because all I've seen growing up on the farm is, why are we doing this? We're doing it as a labor of love. And, you can go talk to agricultural operations throughout the state that have subsidized income coming in that keeps them in the game of farming. And they'll tell you that, whatever their subsidy income is keeping their addiction in farming going. We have a rapidly increasing population, as most of you know, well, depending now. But it was estimated that we needed to double the food production by 2050. So just to give you a small idea, this is kind of what spurred veterans in ag from a national level outside of the military community. Next slide, please. And I'd like to introduce to you the Veterans Farm of North Carolina that I built and am the executive director of. And I'm pleased to announce that we have a permanent location in Cameron, North Carolina, just north of Fort Bragg. That's a 60-acre plot of land that's being built as we speak to constantly train veterans and have a place for veterans to go to learn. So basically what we do is we train them and we help them with equipment. We've got roughly $250,000 worth of equipment. In the bottom right-hand corner, you can see the tractor donation from Coyote Tractors that one of the farmer veterans in our network, Sam, was able to secure. And these types of equipment, agriculturally related or not, are things that veterans can pick up and take to their farms, because most of the time when a veteran starts a farming operation, their income is completely tapped after buying the farm and trying to get it going. So they don't have the access to the the $50,000 tractor that they need to use and so forth. So we're able to assist in some of those ways as well. We don't worry so much about the licensed therapy part of agriculture, if you will, because we're not therapists. So what we have noticed is that through integrating veterans into agriculture, which they have always been in ag, if you go back and look through history, history will tell us that most of the wars we ever fought prior to 1900 were fought by farmers. So there's already kind of that drive between farmers and the military mindset. But we noticed when we started plugging those veterans into agricultural operations and we networked them together and we started working with them one-on-one and pushing them towards collaboration, that we started noticing some of the folks that were with me in the beginning days that the suicide calls decreased. So we know that it's a side effect of being able to have that purpose and have that network around them already. And Dr. Kyle's research has definitely proven some of that. Next slide, please. We are about to unveil the Veterans Agricultural Training and Education Program, which is a 6-month hands-on on-farm training and education program for potential farmer veterans that are going to be in the state. It is an all-encompassing program that mimics many of the models of agriculture that veterans typically find themselves into in the beginning days. But the problem is statistics shows on a different scale outside of Dr. Kyle's research that most beginning farms are dead in the water and sold, and whoever was owning them is now divorced and broke and in substantial debt within 5 years of starting an operation because they haven't taken a lot of the time needed to educate themselves on how to run a business on an agricultural level. And that's exactly what we intend on rectifying, and we do it through Soldier to Ag program as well, I'll talk about in a second. But this program bridges a gap slam between a beginning farmer's interest and what universities have to offer, which is a sizable gap. What makes us a little bit unique is that we are veterans and we are farmers ourselves that teach the program like Dr. Kyle was talking about. So reaching the demographic that we're after to start this kind of movement in North Carolina was not hard to do at all. Next slide, please. North Carolina State Agricultural Institute, I have worked for the past 5 years, and they have done a lot to go above and beyond to try to start connecting the military industry and the agricultural industry, the two biggest ones. Originally, I was hired on to kind of be a veteran liaison, if you will, for the 2-year program, but that led to Fort Bragg asking for an actual agricultural training program on the military installation, and that's where Soldier to Agriculture program began. Next slide, please. We started Soldier to Ag program with funding from Golden Leaf in July 2017 between Dr. Elizabeth Wilson and myself from the Ag Institute. And we built a 6-week program. This is drinking from a fire hose at 30,000 feet view and what not to do when you start a farm kind of thing. We immediately started rapidly growing in class size. The first class was three participants from Fort Bragg. The second class was somewhere around 9, and then we started maxing out around 15 for every subsequent class after that. We can't teach more than 15 at a time. We literally do 6 weeks of program and then 1 week off and go right into another. Classes are free for any veteran or transitioning military member within 180 days window of their EAS ETS. And we have been regarded, the Soldier to Agriculture program has been regarded and still is as the most heavily sought after program by transitioning military on Fort Bragg. As most of you know, about 700 people transition out of Fort Bragg every single month. We've got a waiting list that we've been maintaining of over 400, and we've just finishing the 30th class tomorrow. We are also the first and only ongoing agricultural training program on a military installation anywhere that's still in existence today. But we basically break it down into what are you dealing with, what are you getting yourself into, and why your idea may not work. And then we start looking at ideas that will work, and we bring in the industry professionals to prove those. Next slide, please. And with that, those two programs, we were able to build one slide that I did not get a chance to toss in here was the North Carolina Farmer Veteran Network that is now over 600 strong. We estimate that there's probably over 1,200 farmer veterans in North Carolina, and probably that number is very small compared to the true number because we simply just don't know how many agricultural people are out there that are veterans. You know, we pick them up one at a time, and this has been a long time coming over the past 10 years that I've been working towards this. as vets came to me, one of the first things that I did was start making veterans that are going into farming operations to network with each other, which is one of the biggest reasons why agriculture is failing today. And because farmers don't work with farmers anymore. And we've seen how it's proven itself. Fayetteville has become a great big old boom of a sub-industry in agriculture of farmer veterans, with roughly 400 that are producing or getting their farms started around the Fort Bragg, Fayetteville area. And they network with each other. And now we're starting to see veteran-owned farm-to-table restaurants pop up, and a new grocery store, and a whole lot of new networking opportunities and marketing opportunities for veterans. So if we can ever be of service, between Dr. Kyle and myself, if we can ever do anything for anyone, please let us know. And we could always use more community partners, because I'm always running with my hair on fire. So our contact information is on the screen, and so is the social media links if y'all want to check out those two programs that I mentioned. And thank you for your time today.
Thank you both so much. Crystal, I'm so glad to hear that you have 6 pups, 6 doggies. I haven't grown my pack back up yet, but I'm happy with my 4 right now. And I should have also mentioned that I actually rescued a chicken last summer. And so from her, I now have 5 chickens. So nice. Thank you both for coming. I do love goats too, Robert. So I'll be working on that. Next up, we have the North Carolina Center for Optimizing Military Performance, also known as NC Comp, Stephen DeLellis. Stephen, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Welcome. Thank you for being with us today. I did look up the NC Comp to find out what that was, and I'll let him further elaborate, but it is a group of North Carolina-based academic, nonprofit, industry, and state government organizations with DoD labs and operational units that are, their intent is to fill critical performance gaps. And I look forward to hearing your presentation today. Stephen, welcome.
Thank you, Crystal, and thank you to the North Carolina Governor's Working Group team for allowing us to present today. But first, I want to say thanks to Robert and Crystal Kyle. I really appreciate what you all are doing. That's a fantastic initiative. So without further ado, as Crystal mentioned, I am Steve DeLellis. I retired after 36 years of active duty in the Army. I've been a North Carolinian for the past 33 years. I spent 31 of those years of active duty Army service here at Fort Bragg. And I'm fortunate enough in retirement to have connected with many like-minded North Carolinians whose passion it is to serve the military and to continue to serve the military after retirement. I manage the Fort Bragg Research Institute for the Geneva Foundation, which is a nonprofit entity with hundreds of active Department of Defense medical and human performance research projects, employing dozens of North Carolinians at Fort Bragg and many more throughout the state. The Fort Bragg Research Institute recently partnered with Research Triangle International, the University of North Carolina System, the North Carolina Biotechnology Center to form the collaboratory known as the North Carolina Center for Optimizing Military Performance, or NC Comp, whose mission it is to unify North Carolina academic institutions, North Carolina businesses, North Carolina military bases, and DoD partners to optimize service member health and performance. Next slide, please. So the big question of the day is, why do we need an NC Comp? Well, I think Lieutenant General Horaho said it best while she was still in uniform serving as our Army Surgeon General. She said, we know more about our trucks than we do about our soldiers. And for those of you that have served in the military, you know that that's not far from the truth. Every day, our service members conduct checks and services on our military's equipment and vehicles, but we don't often take time to ask our soldiers or sailors, airmen, or Marines how they're doing or what they need to function more efficiently. Many research organizations conduct their research with the assistance of our warfighters, and they publish their research in impressive journals, and they gain accolades for their work, which results in recognition for their institution and ultimately their tenure. But journal articles don't necessarily help our service members, and many of our commanders don't necessarily read the journals that those research manuscripts are published in. The Fort Bragg Research Institute and NC Comp exist to ensure that research conducted using our nation's military human capital results in tangible and useful material or knowledge products that actually support the warfighter and enhance their ability to perform those roles and functions that our nation requires of them. And the bottom line of this slide is likely as important to those of you that represent this great state as it is to those of us that work here. It's the intention of NC Comp to collaboratively bring a much more equitable share of those federal research and manufacturing dollars to North Carolina. Next slide, please. NC Comp is a coalition of the willing, bound only by an agreement to protect each other's intellectual property, to share information and resources willingly, and to aim for the common goal of improving our nation's warfighters' capabilities. Our member pool is growing and literally represents every corner of North Carolina as depicted on this map. Next slide, please. The plank holders of NC Comp include, as I mentioned, the UNC System, Research Triangle International, the Geneva Foundation's Fort Bragg Research Institute, and North Carolina's Biotechnology Center. And under that umbrella, the North Carolina Military Business Center and DefTech are significant brain trust contributors to this cause. This slide advertises some of the human performance efforts within the DoD with direct relevance to Fort Bragg. And NC Comp is well positioned to be the connective tissue for all those efforts, as well as for North Carolina-based organizations supporting those efforts. Next slide, please. The bottom line of the 5W slide is unity of effort. The goal is to unify what has in the past been separate, stovepiped individual service efforts that are likely all headed in a similar direction. Our biggest goal is to reduce cost, redundancy, and more importantly, time to a solution. Imagine how much federal research money we could save when all the services work together toward common solutions. In North Carolina, we have the ability to touch all 5 services as well as the National Guard and Reserve components of our military. And with our public health service connections in North Carolina, the civilian population benefits from those DoD-initiated research projects. Next slide, please. These are some of the capabilities our team members bring to bear on DoD efforts. In a moment, you'll see a slide that depicts NC Comp membership and the capabilities that they contribute to the entire research through commercialization continuum supporting those DoD efforts. Next slide, please. And these are likely outputs that we're capable of collectively producing on behalf of our military. You know, many of our research efforts leave the National Guard or Compos 2 and 3, the National Guard and the Reserve component out of the research projects. It's our goal to make sure that components 2 and 3, the Guard and the Reserves, are included in all the research that affects the military. Next slide, please. This is a busy slide and only getting busier with time. This slide represents the North Carolina partner organizations in NC Comp and their roles and the capabilities that they contribute in the research to dual use commercialization pipeline. It's our hopes that this slide will be way too busy to even post online in the very near future. We're growing rapidly. Next slide, please. And beyond the obvious benefits of a greater brain power, manpower, or accelerated throughput enabled by simultaneous effort, the real benefits include more federal dollars coming to North Carolina, staying in North Carolina from project development through research, design, and dual use commercialization. Next slide, please. But the real gem of this collaboratory is the approach. Rather than waiting for the community to bring ideas to the DoD, we bring command identified requirements, gaps, and needs to the scientific and entrepreneurial community. We facilitate team building across the state of North Carolina, and with our partners, develop, test, and deliver the best solutions in the most efficient manner. We interact with active, guard, and reserve warfighters throughout the project to ensure that what we design and produce is what they ask for, is what they want, and is what they need. Not what industry tells them is the best solution, but rather warfighter approved solutions. NC Comp will collectively continue to bid on research projects and development projects as we individually have done over the past several decades. But we could certainly use your assistance to raise awareness of this collaborative potential of NC Comp and help us to support the goals of the warfighter to improve their plight and what they do for our nation every day. Next slide, please. So that's it, really. Thank you kindly for an opportunity to speak to you today. NC Comp is growing rapidly by leaps and bounds. We have now 27 signatories on our rolls, all either academic, community industry, or DoD partners helping to support the research we do on behalf of the warfighter. And we're just absolutely thankful to have the ear of this working group so that you understand who we are and what we're doing to bring federal research dollars to North Carolina, and more importantly, keep them in North Carolina through the entire continuum of the project, from beginning of research all the way through commercialization and use for the civilian community as well as DoD alike. Thanks, Crystal, for the opportunity and the entire team. I'm happy
Thank
to
you
take
so much. Thank
any-
you for being with us. That was very informative. Somebody else have a question?
Any questions, I'm happy to take them.
May have just been a hot mic. All right. Thank you so much, Stephen. It was wonderful
Thank you.
having you today. This information is very important. I wasn't aware of this program, so thank you. Really
Thank you all very
appreciate that.
much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, everyone. Our next meeting is going to be September 23rd, 2021. We're going to have an expert panel talking about the social determinants of suicide. You heard some of that today from Dave Roddenberry. We look forward to the meeting. We had hoped we could do it in person, but again, due to those rising COVID levels, we cannot. So please get your vaccine. Please believe in the information that is being put out by our Department of Health and Human Services. We appreciate you all for joining us today. Again, don't forget to spay and neuter your animals. And that is all. Again, our email updates can be registered for at NCGWG. Just look for Uncle Sam. And our meeting agenda and minutes are at ncgwg.org as well. These will be posted there tomorrow. Thank you for your participation today. Thank you to all of our presenters and co-chairs, and have an excellent Friday Eve. Bye, everyone.